All these have. Well, I.
The same fire. Both sides. Yeah, but you know.
Feels good.
Your chat box here,
Yeah,
if
it's
it
been,
needs to be muted, right there.
Can you leave?
Yeah.
No,
So I can kind of see,
you can see all of it, if you need me, just ask me.
none of them can talk.
No, they're all muted, but they can unmute them. They're not just. We
And
are.
they can, do we have that, they can hear everything?
They should be able to hear just fine.
Awesome.
Oh, no.
The room just gets quiet. Hi, everyone, I'm Jen. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, I think we have 5 or 6 people on this, and supposedly I'm supposed to man this, and I don't, I'm like, not that great at it, so we'll see. Yes, please, thank you. Yes.
Oh, what did they do?
How are you? Thank you. This is called Au
I
Naturel.
love it.
Very
Cool.
last minute summer walk.
You got
Yeah.
7:30.
So this is a new style class. Chris, I'm gonna say S. Do we know how to say his last name? There we go. Suggested that we have an, yeah, I can come up here. Suggested we have an Ask Anything style class. So instead of just targeting the people here, we had some people submit questions. So we got our little non-fishbowl pile of questions that have been pre-submitted. We will go through them, and then if anyone has any additional questions, you can call them up, okay? And we have 4 panelists today. Does everyone, let's go through, and you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes,
Yes.
Rob Opeth, I've been here at Keller Williams, I think it's been 8 years now, 9 years. Been in this for 27, so I'm officially the resident old guy.
I'm Teresa Didion. I've been with Keller Williams for I think about 6 years, and I've been in the business 16.
I'm Oktay. I've been in the business for 14 years and with Keller Williams for I think 5 years.
I'm Mary St. George, and I've been at Keller Williams since the week COVID started, so it'll be 2020. And I've been at Richardson since 2005.
Yeah, someone asked me, how long have these people been in business? I said, well over 10 years. So I was pretty accurate.
Yes.
So the style we're gonna do, we're gonna draw a question. I'm gonna ask the question. And then the panelist that feels the most invoked or wants to answer it right away can just go ahead and raise their hand or answer it. And if all the panelists together, every single person wants to answer one question or contribute to it, that's fine too.
Like the voice.
Yep. So this is an unscripted class. They have not seen any questions before. I know most of them, you get, here's all your questions, you spend days getting prepared. So this is an on-the-spot session. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, question number 1. What is the one thing you have seen new agents do that you know is a waste of time? What is the one thing that you've seen new agents do that you know is a waste of time?
I have my hand up.
Yes.
Still showing properties without getting pre-qualification letters for vetting their clients.
Yes.
Running off on a lead. Showing multiple properties, not spending time with their clients to understand exactly what they can afford, what they're looking for, what their wish list is, I guess I'd say, making sure they're a ready, willing, and able buyer.
Yeah, love it.
Awesome.
Does anyone have anything else to contribute to that question?
I think with the new buyer's agency requirements, it should help newer realtors especially to get to know the people and explain why they have to build a buyer's agency agreement, that they just can't go willy-nilly And it's for the agent's benefits too, because people will call you up and then they'll call somebody else up and call somebody else up and you're like, hi, did you still want to look at some houses? Oh, no, we already bought a house. Oh, okay, yeah. So then you really, it's important to start getting your scripts in your mind, you know, find somebody to talk to go over the scripts.
You're right, that's the best objection handler. It's federal law, sorry, sign here, done. Right, so, yeah. I-
No, that wasn't my question, but you know how I interpreted that? How to get started, like marketing, like what's wasting time, knocking on doors, sending out postcards, that's how I took that question.
So maybe we can answer that in that sense. What's the waste of time in marketing?
Yeah, or trying to get started, like getting leads, that's why I took.
There's, I think, a few questions about leads too, but that's like, is there anything else that stands out that you would say, maybe I did it and I wouldn't do it again? Or you see them doing it, that you're like, I don't think that works.
I had Zillow leads when I first started real estate and there really was a waste of money in my mind. I know some people that live on them, but Zillow leads come from everywhere.
Mhm.
They do.
Ryan Buffini said it years ago, that if we did our job as realtors, companies like Zillow wouldn't exist. If, in other words, it goes back to our database, and I will sound like a broken record today, I'm sure, but you're right, if we follow, I think the statistic years ago was 87% of customers interviewed would use the same agent. And then I think something like 50% actually do, I don't remember the second number.
I think
But
it's less.
it's less.
20.
It might be like-
Those are 25.
25, yeah, I think you're right. So again, if we just simply do our job as agents and follow up with people and stay in contact, I mean, sometimes you will have those folks that go, why are you still calling me? And it's like, oh, okay, I'll take you off the list. But if you just simply follow up with them, provide value on a regular basis. So I agree with you. I tried Zillow leads about 4 or 5 years ago, was not happy. In fact, this is my favorite Zillow story. So it was in the fall and it was $1,000 a month for the zip codes I wanted. And they promised me, I say promise, air quotes. They said that they would provide somewhere between 12 and 15 buyer leads per month and another 5 seller leads per month. That was their own algorithm. That was the hook they used to reel me in, okay? So the first month I got 6 buyer leads, no seller leads. Second month I got 7, and the third month I got 8. So of course I'm on the phone with customer service in December going, this ain't working. You know what they told me? I couldn't make this up. Oh, have you noticed you're trending up? Really, I'm getting phone calls from 12-year-olds with their social studies project, and so that's my answer. So, and I'm not saying internet leads don't work. However, there's a whole different level of trust that you get when you deal with someone, past client, family, friend, someone in your phone, somebody you met at a fraternity party 10 years ago. Anybody that you already knows your name is gonna be a whole different level, and I found the same thing, when you're working with some of these internet leads. Some of them are just weird, not all of them, but you have to build that trust. And, if someone's our age and doesn't have a relationship with a mechanic, a realtor, a plumber. Something's probably a little odd about them anyways, sorry, I mean,
Yeah,
but,
so those
so,
are coming from the area.
yes.
Still, yeah, those are probably the only ones that really turn out to be good leads, is people coming from other areas.
Right. Because
They don't know anybody.
they don't have money, yes, that's a good point.
Can I add to that? Buying leads, I think, is a waste of time. What kind of people that you already know? Establish that relationship and keep track with them. Go over their house for coffee, go to where they work, their business, buy them coffee, buy them lunch. 2-3 people a week, it's gonna add up. That's all you gotta do. Concentrate on people you know, not the ones you don't know. You don't have to sell yourself to those people. The people you don't know, you do have to sell yourself.
Join local civic groups too, whether it's the Elks, the Rotary, because those are people, your neighbors too. I mean, it's the same thing. Like one of my friends one time said to me, I asked him why he didn't call me about his house. He was married, out of sight, out of mind. So it was like, wow, okay. We were good friends, but he lives someplace else, and then he had a place down near me. But I didn't talk to him or run into him. Had I been going to the same places, maybe the same groups, so we always try to belong to at least one local civic group and also volunteer in whatever capacity we do.
Awesome. This, BNI, for those of you who don't know, is specifically designed for, it's called Business Network International. They have chapters all over the world, and it's specifically designed for professionals. So there's accountants and lawyers and realtors and, used car guys.
Organizations.
Yeah, insurance agent, so if you're new in the business, that's another one, it does cost, I mean, but same thing, you meet for breakfast once a week, and you're building that network of hopefully other salespeople for it. So it's not a good one.
Thank you. All right,
Just say
yes,
something?
of course.
So I have bought Zillow leads before and I've been very successful. So I do want to just give a little flip side of the coin for a second. So last year I received a lead from another realtor and he had family who had a home on Illinois Lake. And he chose me out of all the agents on Zillow to list the property, of course, for a referral fee. But then I ended up getting both sides. So, and it was a $749,000 listings. So I think you have to do what you're comfortable with. Where I think you should, like, what should we not waste our time on? But you're not gonna know unless you try it. So you try it and it may not work for you. You know what I mean? It's like you're just getting terrible leads and it's not yours.
And that's a lot of money too for new agents. New agents typically don't have that kind of money.
Well, at that level, but I don't pay that. I pay $54 a month.
Really?
So
So can
he
I
pays
make a comment?
yes.
So I actually am a newer, I'm under 5 years, and been in business 4 years, and I bought Realtor.com leads
Mhm.
that were very expensive last year. First time I've ever bought leads, I've never been a fan of lead buying. I can't say I'll ever do it again. However, I committed to a year. It was their pro program where I paired with a lender. I paid, I think it was almost $4,000 for 6 months, and then the lender paid for another portion, and I actually had another agent pay for the other portion, so $12,000 a month for 6 months. And basically, good luck, it was kind of like a round robin, whoever got it, well, guess what, I always got the leads, because I was always on my phone. However, I ended up pulling from there about $2.5 million in sales. But I will say, there was a lot of junk that came with it. And this is supposed to be people that are triple scrubbed, vetted, and I'll tell you something, all the quality buyers, I have a listing right now. That I just sold them a $605,000 house, and I'm selling their $400,000 house. So $1 million in business from this one person, and they came from Realtor.com last year, and they said to me in the beginning, it was shady. They didn't like how the person was talking to them, they were foreign, they couldn't understand them, they kept asking them all these really, these questions, and do you have a loan officer, are you pre-qualified, do you have money, when do you wanna buy? And so these people that were being like triple scrubbed were super offended almost by the, hey, I just wanna look at the house, like, is there anything that you can set me up with? So by the time I got to them, it was almost like a detox and then, make a comfortable connection. And those people turned out to be well, but for me, I will probably never do that again. I would rather go into Wegmans every day and find people to talk to and be finding their. Okay, or are you buying those chips for your house or your apartment? Because it was really expensive, but I too did have a good experience with the fact that I ended up extrapolating good people from it. But out of those promises, I didn't get what was promised and I had to work the leads. And I would say that less than a quarter of the business was good business.
Right.
5 in a year. For that amount of money, $2,000, that's crazy.
Just out of curiosity, how many leads do you think it was total?
I'd have to pull my stats.
Yes,
They
100, 200.
guaranteed 35 a month.
Okay,
And it was supposed to be buyer and seller
Buyer and
leads.
seller,
I did end up getting seller leads, but it wasn't because they told them, it was buyers who wanted to buy that, then, hey, I gotta sell.
I gotta sell too. Cause you probably, believe it or not, I'm just doing the math, so 6 months times 30. So you're probably, believe it or not, 180 leads, you're probably way above the national average for conversion, so that's spectacular.
Yeah,
Cause you're right, but the point is going back to the question, is wasting time. For you, it wasn't, you actually made money, but you're right, when you look back at those hours, was that time that you spent worth it as opposed to doing some other lead gen
Right.
tactics. But again, congratulations to you. That's actually really good.
Oh, thank you.
That's an outstanding number. Yeah.
So one last little cherry on top would be, anything can be a waste of time, but if you track your return on investment.
Yes.
Then you can determine what is a waste of time and what isn't, including your hours, you know, if that's, you're coming in and you just have your hours versus money. So, all right, next question. We want to know all the secrets here, okay? What's your surefire ace in the hole strategy for getting a listing when you're up against another agent or agents? I'll read it twice. What's your surefire ace in the hole strategy for getting a listing when you're up against other agents?
I'll do it. I rarely ever compete with anybody, it's the people I know, and I work my circle, I don't work outside my circle. I'm probably been in competition 3 times in 14 years.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
That's
Nice,
awesome.
yeah.
I would say one of the things I focus on is when I get in there, I often look at it, I use a lot of sports analogies, but it's like going into battle. So, you know, the old saying, burn the bridge, burn the boats. I don't give them any reason to say no. So when I go in there, I have the pricing done, I show them the comparables. I find out in advance what their mortgage amount is and their home equity line of credit, if they have it. So I know the financials inside and out. And you have to have, and this is maybe sometimes for some of the newer agents might struggle a little bit, is, you know, sometimes you have to be able to play poker a little bit. So someone says, well, how long have you been in the business? Oh, feels like forever. You know, there are certain dodges that you don't have to necessarily give away right away. But again, 99.9% of the time, that's probably the only little bluff I made when I was newer. When you don't give them any reason to say no, you've got the financials, so when they walk away, and I've done this a lot before sell by owners. How much do you need to walk away with to buy your next place? $50,000. So when you walk into that offer and you show them the seller net sheet, the expense sheet, and they know that they're making $55,000. They don't probably name your commission, now do they? So making sure, number one, that you show them the statistics, you show them pictures, and then show them the financials. Yeah, even with competition, I find that's usually the key. Is I've had so many times customers go, geez, some agents don't even do a CMA, much less show them the net sheet. So I find that having all that information in place, having all your ducks in a row, it was work for me.
And when you're going to listing presentations, always ask lots of questions, because if you don't get the listing, then at least you have a lot of information to share with your buyers. Like what's important to them. Well, you know, I'm gonna be needing a barn, I don't know what about a barn, so one of my buyers actually was able to get a house, multiple bids, because these buyers offered to let the seller use the barn for a year for free. So, but that was asking lots of questions, so even if you don't get the listing, if you ask a lot of questions, you're gonna be beneficial to your buyers, especially when it comes to trying to bid on a property.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right. How much does it typically cost per foot to drill a well? Well, I know someone that probably knows this quite well.
$52 a foot.
I was gonna say 35, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did everyone hear it?
No. Whole question.
Yep, so how much does it typically cost per foot to drill a well? So if you have a client who needs to drill a well or build a house with a well, this person might have wanted to know that. Any other tidbits you want to share about well?
I think $32, 32 to 35.
35, but Bidenomics, so it's probably more than 35.
I like Moravec for
Yeah.
anything wells,
Yeah, me
so if you're going to help your client in that regard, that's who I would refer them to.
What was the name?
Moravec well drillers, you can.
And he also knows where properties have a hard time obtaining water, so there's certain areas that he definitely will say to you, it might cost a little bit more because we're not finding water there. So there's other solutions too.
Like, for example, you down near Lima, Durane Road, that area, there's wells that typically run 200 to 350 feet. Versus there's other areas where, you know, they're gonna hit it with them. But these guys, there was a geologist on the team, they've been doing wells for like 50 years. I think they had, for those of you who remember the old phone books, those thick books, They probably have a phone book at all the wells they drill, right? I mean, if you ask them any area, from here to Penn Yan, and they've done the well there,
Yeah.
so, yeah, they're amazing.
I've never heard a bad thing about it.
Nope.
Thank you. All right, next question. What is the number one system with your business that you waited too long to develop that you wish you developed sooner? I'll read it again. What is the number one system with your business that you waited too long to develop that you wish you developed sooner?
Calendar,
Calendar.
and if it's not on my calendar now, it doesn't happen, so I don't know how long I guess, I'm gonna do it, but once I started doing it for sure. Then it's, yeah, I wish I'd done sooner. Cause the old notes, I wrote a note in my car, or I wrote a note stuck in my purse, or wrote it in my pocket, and like call you up and, weren't you supposed to be here today? I'm like, yeah, that's the worst thing you can do.
Not everybody can see that, see all the colors, my coach did the same thing, I was the paper guy, I love my paper, and if you can see all those colors, that's everything's color coordinated, my coach did the same thing. You need to use Google Calendar, now, all the kids' sporting events, my wife's, anything, yes, Google Calendar rocks.
Anyone else on the panel have a system that they wish they developed or implemented sooner?
I think keeping my notes, like Susan Glenns came to one of the meetings and she had a notebook. And I saw her go back in the notebook like months and, here was what I said. And so I keep a, 8 by 10, whatever the standard school size notebook.
My
are.
notes are all in here.
And I just keep it, and then when it's full, it goes into my file box with my files. But at least if I forget something, or if anything, normally I recap everything to when I go to a listing presentation, I recap it in an email to them anyway, so I have that in a folder, but. Other little things that may matter, or just my agenda for that day, and I'm crossing it off, and then instead of throwing away that note, I just flip the page. And so that's been very helpful, just to be able to refer back.
Okay, you have one?
Making time for myself.
Mm.
I didn't do that up until 2017, 7 years in the business, and started making time. So blocking off a section of the day for family time. But now I do it like a big time for myself.
Awesome. Next question. What are your feelings on an in-house office, pros and cons?
I do everything from my car, donut shops, coffee shops,
Do you mean in-house, like your clients come there, or an office in your, what does that mean?
It can mean a couple different things. This one might be, let's maybe position it both ways. Do you have an office in your house? And then how about an office here?
My house, my couch, and my phone. And anywhere else I pull over, like beside a coffee shop.
Right.
Most of my appointments are always at either a coffee shop or somebody's house. Nobody really comes to my house except to visit. Here occasionally, but for anybody in Boston, it's too far out of the way. So usually coffee shops and something like that.
I have an office, I don't use it other than maybe for TikTok or Reels. I don't use it for business.
Anyone else?
I mean, I have my desk, actually, my wife just reset it up for me, so we have downstairs, that's right in my prospecting,
Mhm.
but you're right, aside from that, yeah, same thing, coffee shops are at their house, yeah.
I have my home office and I love it because I'm on the treadmill and I'm getting all my emails drafted and all my texts drafted while I'm walking. And then at 9 o'clock, I go boom, 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 and I fire everything off for the day, so I'm
Look at you.
just waiting for
Yeah.
things.
That's awesome.
But I should feel like I should use this space more. I probably haven't met a client here since March. Because I do prefer to go at home, because if they're a buyer and they, other than Zoom, I would like to see what they may need to sell, so I find that to be beneficial. And then, of course, the seller, of course, that's where I really want to go, because I want to just secure that listing.
So we got an array of answers for that one. How do you handle unexpected positive growth in your business? How do you handle unexpected positive growth in your business?
They say, woo woo.
One day at a time. I remember when I first started, I had 3 things happening in 1 week, and didn't know how to do it, I was all confused, but you slow it down. Take care of paperwork number one, paperwork number two, just move down the line. It'll all work out, just do what you're supposed to do, nothing's gonna take you that long a time to write out. You can be out there to sign, but I have any contract right now, sign it somewhere, you're waiting for them to sign it. It's simple, it's easy, don't stress over it, it will work out.
It depends on how much people wanna do in your business. If you wanna like build a business, then it's a whole different thing, but I'm at the point where I'm comfortable doing few here, few there. That's like, I don't wanna get crazy over it, because that's where I am.
Amazing, okay. Let's see what we got. What is the number one? We got a lot of number ones here. So you wanna know your number one, right? What is the number one skill set that an agent should develop to become a consistent $5 million per year agent? I'll read it again. What is the number one skill set that an agent should develop to become a consistent $5 million per year agent?
Follow
Follow up.
So your phone.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can't believe how many people will answer the phone and go, oh, you actually answer your phone. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like to text and sometimes it's easy, but there's a lot of people out there that don't feel comfortable texting and like calling, and somebody answer the phone.
And it's a generational thing too,
Yeah.
distinct difference. I just always make the excuse, I have a bad right arm, so I can't text 1 minute, so you gotta call me. But yeah, I would say listening for me is the key. If you listen, then well, you know what's important to them. And then the second, number two would be then objection here, but number one is listening.
Are we absorbing? Good.
I think it's a follow-up and I do that via email, so anytime I meet someone or I speak with someone, I recap it in an email to them. I can't remember everything for sure. And then both of us can go back to that email or even that text and say, okay, to recap, this is what we talked about, this is our listing plan, or this is our buying plan, this is how we're moving forward. If we need to revise this at any time, please let me know, but it just helps me so much, because I don't want to say I'm getting older, which I am, but that's not why I like it, because I know I have something to fall back on if I forget something.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
it gives your clients an opportunity to add to it.
Exactly, yeah, if I missed anything, then let me know, exactly. Mhm.
Are we allowed to say anything?
Yeah. well,
Sorry, I'm not sure. Well, because I can relate to that question, because I'm kind of a newer agent, right? But I doubled my business every year since I started. And I do it by getting myself out there, consistently being in front of people and follow up and be consistent. The thing is consistency, because you can follow up with someone, but if you follow up with someone one time and that's it, that's not gonna work out, you know what I mean? So for me, I'm almost at this $5 million and I doubled by doing those things. Following up, consistency and being present.
And you make a good point too, because following up with what's important to them, because, follow up for some people might be simply a phone call. Hey, how you doing? Did you get the information for me? Oh, no, I forgot about it. So,
Right.
you're getting the information they need. So follow up with the information those folks need. So that's excellent. Congratulations.
And you know what else I do is if I've sold someone a property or I've listed their property and they bought another property, I make it a point, I do 3-month, 6-month and 1-year postcards to them, but I do like a card, a handwritten card, like, hey, happy anniversary, what's going on this summer, are you planting any plants, whatever, remember the hosta, whatever. And then I also, do just like little calls, like, hey, Rob, I just packed your house, oh my God, I remember that last year when we sold it, yeah, whatever. And then I've gotten 3 referrals by doing that.
Yes.
And it wasn't because they thought of me, it happened to be right place, right time kind of thing, so I always make it an excuse to call someone that I know I've done business somewhere with.
Top of mind.
Yeah.
Who here, show of hands, who here uses the 36 touch program with KW?
I mean, I don't really know what that is, but I do a lot of touching.
That's way too easy. That's awesome.
Thank you, Tracy.
No secret to her business.
Yeah.
It is a contact.
Said what works, works.
And you came back for more.
All right, so we're gonna pivot a little bit. How do you identify potential issues by looking at photos in MLS before contacting your client? How do you identify potential issues by looking at the photos in the MLS before contacting the client?
Zoom in.
And I already can't find it anywhere in the MLS. Exactly, that place that sold them once. We have found that, no real it is.
Haven't sold?
Haven't sold, or there's no pictures online.
Yeah, I like to see basement photos. I wish those were included a little bit more. I like attic photos too. I
Yep.
think that's very helpful. I think it's hard to identify. The one thing I do look for is, like I just got an accepted offer on Fresh Hour Road and I noticed I only saw one smoke detector and it was in the basement. So I said to the agent, hey, before the appraiser comes, I know it's an appraiser, but he will flag those. Can you make sure that there's one on every floor? And actually I'm overkill. I want one inside every bedroom and I also want one on every floor. So if your clients would be so kind, you know, and make sure. And then if I'm looking at a septic on this particular property, I gotta make sure that it's on public water. If it's not, I wanna know where the well is. So I look at that as well. When I see unknown about radon, that confuses me. So you know, I'll educate my client. And that would be on the property condition disclosure. I'd educate my client, let's look at the property. Is it a poured floor in the basement? Because if it's not a poured floor and we've got radon, you're gonna have to pour the floor or put a membrane down before we can even put a radon mitigation system in. So this one's got a poured floor. You can do one of two things. You can ask to have a radon test, you know, while we're under contract, or you can do your own radon test once you own the property. Either one is not wrong or right, but it's going to need to be done. So whether you're taking it on or you're doing it under contract,
Mhm.
that's really important, especially if you want to finish the lower level. So those are the things I look at.
Thank you. Anyone else have any contributions of MLS photos identifying potential?
If they are there, it's good to look at them, because then if each of the houses is completely different or somewhat different, at least then you have conversations about what they did and how they decide what to do, you know, just. Because again, if you're talking with your clients, then they're feeling more comfortable with you because you have that conversation with them. It's not just, hi, here's signing a listing agreement. So pictures can be good for lots of things.
And so maybe it's someone asking that, oh, did you?
I was like,
Yeah,
can I
okay,
talk?
Emily.
I think so pictures, I mean, we know pictures are great nowadays, right? But I think if you reference the listing price and you really and you familiarize yourself a little bit with the area, and then you also look to see what kind of financing they're allowing, you know, if you don't see any FHA or it says cash only, those are pretty big red flags alone right there to say, listen, these pictures look great, but there's gotta be some condition, there's something that's not allowing there to be, you know, a government backed loan of some sort. Or maybe
Could be just their listing.
or maybe-
Nothing to.
Right, or maybe, right, so it's a phone call to the agent to say, hey, listen, is this a really true cash only, or are you, you know, could we get in here with an FHA? So, you know, I think it's just really navigating that listing as well and really looking at to see, you know, the quote unquote terms.
Cause I wish I had a nickel for every time you call up exactly that situation, say, oh, it's cash only. See, then they wouldn't look at a renovation loan? Oh, dead silence. So, yeah, so renovation was right. I mean, I have yet to see a house that does not qualify for renovation. But you're right, it's the old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Well, and it can go both ways
Yeah.
too, you know, you can look at the house and say, I'm seeing a lot of red flags, are you sure you're gonna accept an FHA buyer here or a
Right.
VA buyer?
Yes.
You know, but I think a lot of it, my 2 cents, not that it matters,
No,
but
thank you.
I'm just manning the question and answer area here.
FHA, they could get a home improvement loan with it, so.
Yeah.
okay.
And I think that's going one step further. What we were saying, the panelists are saying here is advocating for your client too, because it's kind of a mix is when you're going in and maybe it just says conventional loan, is there any way we could get a VA renovation loan on this? And I'm the one that's always calling the other agent when I don't see government backed loans going, tell me why I can't do this.
Yes.
So, because then half of them are like, oh, there's a little peeling paint in the foyer. Oh, that's it?
Or handrails, that's
Yeah.
always something.
Yeah.
Or deck railings.
And talking about VA loans, so I'm a military brat, and so my whole family extended, immediate, all military. And everybody uses VA loans. My son, and my youngest son is a manager in Corning, he's got a very good job. He's bought 3 different homes with VA loans, no one ever questions him down there. So a lot of agents think because you have a VA loan that you're not good. But you can't get a VA loan approval unless you are good. So it's not like, okay, I don't have any money, I'm just gonna get a VA loan, that's not how it works, they do the same thing that they do for everybody else. And then to top it off, that is something that they have as a benefit for serving our country. So when I hear people say, oh, we don't wanna take your offer because it's a VA loan, really, because I need something more substantial than that. As far as I'm concerned, that sounds like discrimination. Because of, well, you know, right, Tracy, you can't just go get a VA loan because you don't have any money or your credit score is 500. You have to meet all the conditions just like everybody else does.
I don't think it's about the VA loan, it's not for the borrower, it's more about the stipulation that the bank asks as a VA loan or an FHA loan to the seller.
Right,
If I have a conventional offer or a VA loan and an FHA loan, sorry, I'm taking conventional.
yeah, what if the house really doesn't have any issues?
And that's the story.
Yeah, yeah,
It's per house basis,
yeah.
because Emily's got one right now, it's got peeling paint, it's got this and that, so. It's a conversation with your seller, right?
Right, cause you're right, there is a misconception that a lot of folks think, oh my gosh, you know, VA or FHA is gonna be a nightmare. Well, like I said, if there's not peeling paint, you're not missing gutters or downspouts or handrails. Usually it comes down to, is that aggravation factor. You know, they know that they're gonna be a little bit pickier on a VA appraisal. Versus a conventional, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Trey, some of these, if they're standing, conventional are gonna put it through, so. Yeah, but I agree, it's, you gotta take it on a case by case.
But on the flip side, having that conversation with the listing agent, yes, there might be some peeling paint on the garage, and that's why they don't wanna take a government. But what if your buyer has the money and they're willing to, paint it before closing?
Yes,
Or they allow with that, or private headquarters.
yes, I just had one not even 3 weeks ago, and they offered literally, we knew it was actually really rough shape. Jeff Schofield had it, and it was on the market for more than 10 days. And there was, peeling paint and a few other things, and my buyer said, look, I'm gonna pony up, she had cash, but because of her credit score, she had to go FHA. And she says, I've got the cash, so that we literally offered I think it was $5,000 stipend to fix any appraisal related repairs. Sure enough, the house, not totally repainted, but had a lot of peeling paint, and there was some wooden fencing that needed to be propped up. The seller let her come on the property right after the appraisal was done. They did it, I think, in 1 day.
Yeah.
And we closed without a problem. So you're right, it's just a matter of being creative with those problems.
That's the question up front, that's, you know, don't just make the assumption, oh, or the listing agent, because I get. Everybody wants the conventional, everybody wants the cash, it's an easy peasy deal. But, you know, I really feel bad for these government.
I've had some really
clients.
easy FHA deals,
Yeah.
easier than some of my conventional, so.
Yeah, and a person that gets a VA loan can get several VA loans. It's not, you can get one VA loan for your house, you can go get one for an investment. They have a target amount that they fall into, so it's.
I think a lot of it, sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking. I think a lot of it is being familiar with the process of the appraisal itself. So I asked a banker, I said, can I have all the guidelines for the FHA process? What are you looking for? So that I familiarize myself with it. So if I go in a house, I know what is gonna be flagged and not. So sometimes those things can be addressed prior to the appraisal. And I don't know, it's good to have, if anybody
Oh,
wants
yeah,
it.
that's all.
Quite happy to know your lenders too.
Yeah.
Lenders up and ask some questions.
Yeah.
I love how it's
Excellent.
stimulating conversation here. We do have one that's come in, so I'm gonna read it. Can you talk about what strategies you use when submitting an offer on a potential multiple offer situation? What do you throw in that is outside the box? So probably outside the standard thinking of I'll read it again. Can you talk about what strategies you use when submitting an offer on a potential multiple offer situation? What do you throw in that is outside the box? Please give us all your secrets. No, they didn't say that. I'm just saying. No.
Well, first, the biggest pet peeve, call the agents. As a buyer's agent, you have an obligation to talk to them, period. And there's nothing that drives me worse, it drives me crazier than if, yeah, and we might have had 30-some showings. And people that I didn't even know showed the house send me an offer without any information whatsoever. And then they're using Rocket Mortgage or an out-of-state company. And, you know, as opposed to, I had one agent from downstate call me and she says, I know it's really different up there. She's in Long Island. She says, you guys don't do binders, right? So I emailed her all of her forms, talked her through that process. And she didn't get the offer, unfortunately, but she wrote a heck of a lot stronger offer than she would have had we not had that conversation. So that's my biggest pet peeve.
You gotta answer the phone, even if it's from agents.
Yes.
So what strategies do we use when submitting an offer in a potential
sorry.
multiple? No, you answered, I'm just reiterating the question
Right.
for everyone, so it could be top of mind. In a potential multiple offer situation, what do you throw in that's outside the box?
So like earlier, I talked about that barn,
Mhm.
you know, being able to use the barn, that's outside the box. Talk to the agent, she might, or he might say something like, you know, yeah, they've been trying to do this or do that, or maybe their kid likes something, maybe you could buy them tickets to some Phil running thing or whatever.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. Hockey game, right, something.
Yeah.
I did one for a night at the lake house.
Did
There
you?
you go, yeah.
So was that your offer? No.
And maybe you kind of go back to
Something come in and say the thing.
what's like in the box. Most people right now are probably going, yes, escalation clause over asking price. Possibly throwing out a free post possession, right? Those are pretty common. No home inspection, obviously. What are some other ways doing?
I like to do for $0, the seller doesn't have to clean the house out minus garbage and recyclables. And they can leave anything they want and everything found at the final walkthrough conveys for $0. And that has either been a gold mine to down to nothing, but it really alleviates that seller, like, oh my gosh, I don't have to clean out the barn, I don't have to do this, and this is good, no family member wants it. That's a real good one I like. And I also like accepting the existing survey with an affidavit of no change, as long as it's not too old. So again, I reference Fresh Hour, because it's in my head, but that was a 2019 survey, so.
The executive price, you're talking 15, 20 acres, that could be a $3,000-4,000 bill.
Right, or you can say that, if your clients are going to agree to pay for something before they close, the way I word it, let's go with septic. So I'll say, we're asking the seller to have the septic pumped within 21 calendar days, and the buyer will reimburse the seller at closing. So you want to eliminate as many costs to the seller, be creative as you can. So you can do that with your well, you can do that with your septic, you can do that with your survey. So you can ask them to have the survey. And I guess, Tracy, I'll go to you for this. I've had people correcting me on my wording for updating the survey. I guess that's what. We're not asking for a brand new survey, is it a redate? What's like the proper terminology? Cause I got like, someone said that's not what I took.
It's either you're accepting it at no change.
Affidavit of no
Yeah.
change.
Or you're getting a new survey, usually they don't redo, I know the surveyors will give you a discount if they can find the
Depends.
pins already, and you just need to put a new shed
Mhm.
on the existing survey, so it's a fraction of the cost.
Okay, so, just things that you can ask, if you're gonna ask them to do. Ask them to do, and then your client reimburses them, close with your buyer, that's always a nice.
If you know your seller has a shed that's on the neighbor's property, you say, well, you're telling me that, so probably you should do it right now. That way it eliminates all that issues down the road.
A new one that we've seen recently, as far as a negotiating tool, if your seller is moving, to, let's say, from Farmington to Rochester, they're willing to pay the moving charge.
I just had one accepted when I wrote that, because we did it outside the capital gains of the property, yeah.
And they cap it, so you're not getting an 18-wheeler at $20,000 up to a specific amount. You know how much stuff the seller's got in it.
Or you can just write an exact amount of which I did.
You just gave them like towards their moving, you,
So buyer will give seller X amount of dollars towards their moving costs and it's satisfied. They bring them a check at closing or cash at closing, so it's outside the so really at the end of the day, it's the
Yeah.
total price, right? But now they're not having to pay on that. So, yeah.
Everything else in the box.
I've written in the, my buyers were willing to cover the seller transfer tax costs.
Nice.
Cause that's not a, I mean, it's big, but it's not massive when you do the, you know,
$4 per thousand.
right, right. So that's, hasn't worked yet, but I've had some really great responses to it, so.
Just make sure it's not over $1 million, right?
Right, yes, yeah.
When I purchased my lake house, I did what you said, I told the sellers they were elderly, they were from Florida. They were just not coming back to New York, and they had 54 years worth of stuff in that house. So they were gonna try to garage sale most of it, but the basement was 54 years worth. And we said, leave whatever you want, leave whatever you want. It cost us $2,000 to get 2 dumpsters from the town. So for $2,000, we got a lake house, $100,000 under SC.
We got a deal on that house. That house is nice, yeah.
I write that in almost every offer if the buyer's okay with it, so, yeah.
Nice.
That's just manual labor, if you have
Yeah.
kids, she.
There you go.
Cheap labor.
Any other tips or how we get our offer accepted or stand out? Yeah, how our offer stands out?
One I will share that was shocking to me that it was sold last year, as ironically it was, the buyer had written in. Some $200,000 listing. They came in with a $25,000 increment on the escalation clause. Up to 300,000, and then they wrote an additional clause that if it went, it was 325, it was 325. Then from 325 to 350, they said if they still got beat. They wanted an addition, it was a cash deal, by the way, and they wanted the opportunity to discuss with the seller. Doing an additional $10,000 increment. So yeah, so it was just a little convoluted, but the point is it's something different, definitely stood out, and they got it. So
That was your buyer or yours?
it was my listing, so it wasn't my buyer. But yeah, they got it, and they got it, so that the final bid was 275, so they got it for 300. So we didn't have to go to that 350 point, but yeah, it was crazy. But that again shows how badly you wanted it.
Because when you're on the listing and you're seeing a standard of like $1,000 to $5,000 increments, for the most part, that's what I see. Is anyone seeing higher on a regular basis?
1,000 or 5,000 usually.
Increment?
I've seen 10, but in fact, we lost one in Mendon because of that, because I think we didn't know this at the time. The agent told me out of the 12 offers, we had overbid 215,000, the escalation clause, $5,000 increments. And we didn't get it because I guess when the bids came in, out of the 12 offers, the seller knew one of the buyers. So like, oh, we want cousin Susie's kid to get it. And I think if we had a $10,000 increment or more, we would have gotten it. It only sold for 600,000. We were willing to go to 7. And my buyer was kind of ticked. He said, well, why didn't we get it? I said, well, it was a personal relationship. So 4 or 5 grand, maybe, but if you do 10 or higher, if you really, really wanted the place, that might have been enough maybe to bump up those other buyers. You don't know, like.
One of my recent FHA buyers that we won over a conventional offer, we were doing a substantially higher amount over cash than a finance.
Yes,
offer.
yep,
So,
And
and they won.
and they won it, yes, yeah, because
But-
cash isn't always king, you're right, that's a great strategy. Give it a little higher.
Yeah,
One
So-
of my clients lost out on an offer because the lady took another person's offer that was $200,000 less. Because the lady would be a good steward for her, like her property.
Arborist or something?
I don't know, but you know, whoever went in there like did all kinds of changes, so I'm sure it was probably.
What about appraisal gap? Is everybody using appraisal gap coverage regularly?
It's
Is it pretty standard? Yeah.
yeah,
Sure, one more thing that I do.
yeah.
I have a client's attorney who was willing to review contract prior to us submitting it and submitting an attorney's approval with it.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Starting to see that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one, yeah. What else?
Say that again.
So I have my clients that will write the contract, they'll sign it, we'll send it to their attorney. The attorney will then submit a buyer's attorney approval, we'll approve it. So when I submit the offer to the listing agent, I submit the offer with buyer's attorney approval.
I think we're next to this.
Again, we haven't won yet, but one of these days it's gonna happen. But it's definitely the feedback I've gotten from some of the agents are like, ooh,
I just saw that on Clifford saying
Yeah.
the buyer's agent did that too.
Yeah.
How would you get an attorney though? You'd have to send it back to the attorney?
the escalation's already in there.
No, if there's a counteroffer about something else.
No.
Oh, yeah, we would probably
It'd
have to,
be
yeah,
handled, yeah.
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 Haven't, again, it hasn't happened yet, so, you know.
I feel like this could be a whole class.
I think it
okay?
Yeah.
Non-refundable.
Yep.
That's like, we are serious about this house.
Yeah.
What, follow up on that, I like that idea, what percentage of the offer would you see that be? For a non-refundable EMD? Right, because
Tell me
what I'm
more,
also
what's the
seeing, yeah, what I'm also seeing is EMDs on a $250,000 house, an EMD of $100,000. So.
5, 10, 15,000.
Okay, so like a relatively reasonable
Yeah.
amount for an EMD,
Yeah.
but I like that, huh, yeah, I like that.
It does have its risks though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least 5 or 10, 15,000, yeah.
See, I'm telling you, this could be a whole class, just one topic.
Yeah,
Anything else? Are we into the next question? Okay. If you had to get your current level, if you had to get to your current level of success, but do it in half the time, what would you have done differently? If you had to get to your current level of success, but do it in half the time, what would you have done differently?
Married my wife sooner. My wife is my boss, she hates it when I say that, but that is what, hiring an assistant, that was huge. When you get to that point of whatever the number is, 20, 25 transactions, you get to that point where the paperwork is overwhelming you. I wish I'd done that at least 10 years sooner.
Well, you can say if you're doing a team, that's the first person you should hire as an assistant.
Yep. Even as part-time.
I do 35 to 45, I'm still solo agent, no admin, no nothing, compared to working a regular job, which I did for most of my life, spending 2 hours on a deal, get it from one point to another, to get KW satisfied, to get everybody else also satisfied, the attorneys, doesn't see that out there. It's only literally 40 deals of maybe 3 hours of work fees. Right.
Depends on the clients.
Some of them. But that's part of what we do.
Yeah.
We talk about maintaining that circle, if you own that circle. But each deal, literally, the paperwork is only about 3 hours worth of work at max for each deal. So that's not really a lot of work. Now, the relationships are a different story. You gotta keep at, and that's more than 3 hours a year, or even a week. You have to be doing that at least 5, 10 times a week. Of touching your people.
Depends on how many houses you show them before they get accepted deal.
True, but the world we live in now, 5 years ago, you wouldn't even think about that, because you look at one house with person offering 10, 15,000 below asking, and we come to a deal, but now it's just a different market.
And that's a good point. It goes back to getting time management. You were really good with time. And that's one thing I found is I've gotten really, especially, being the old dad, my kids are 10 and 12. I'm really jealous of my time with them. And, that work-life balance, if you have that, great. But you get to a point where you're like suddenly, with 3 hours per transaction, if you cut that in half, you got a wrestling tournament in Utica, so.
Let me add to that. I do all my paperwork after midnight.
Sleeping, I'm sleeping.
I really go to bed after midnight, get up probably around.
Really?
Pretty much, I do pass out every now and then. For the most part, I'm midnight to 5. is my sleep.
I wish they could function on that.
I know.
Just keep saying that, it makes me want to grab a pillow.
Every time it's Steve, which is why I don't make it to a lot of times, because I don't really have time. My kids are 15 or 17, so I'm all over, so. But again, to me. 3 hours, that's all it is.
I think going with your gut, if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Some people may know or may not know that I have been to grand jury. And if I would have went with my gut, the first moment I spoke with that person, I would have saved a year out of my life of the $1.3 million in offers we wrote, and then being interrogated, being investigated,
What happened?
being, and then going in front of grand jury. And I knew it from the moment I spoke with that person. Something just didn't feel right.
Right.
But, you have to, please trust me on that one. And I learned from that too, where, I have let some buyers go recently, and then I know where they went, and I've seen that next agent struggle, and I can't say anything, and it's not, that would be wrong of me to put my opinion, which they would take it as opposed to fact, so they have to experience, I can't, I respect the Fred.
If somebody
you know.
said to me, this
If
person.
they came to me,
I'd be like,
you know
okay.
that, but you gotta be careful too, that like, who's to say my experience would be their experience, even though sometimes the writing's on the wall, but if you feel it in your heart, just let them know that I'm not available for you at that time, if another agent showed you, I wish you the best, I don't step on any other agent's toes, and then you let it go. Let it go, it's not worth it.
Sometimes you have to do that.
Yep.
Yes.
If not, hire a hitman. Kidding.
Rob, what are the most important things to ask on a listing appointment? What are the most important things to ask on a listing appointment?
Why are they selling? How soon do they need to be out of the house? What's their agenda? And when the mortgage, how are you doing with your mortgage? Because I've talked to a couple of people recently, they're kind of like close to the edge. So,
Where are they going?
Where are they going?
That's probably one of the most important things, because normally now you don't even list the house until after they find out. Where are you going?
That would be a whole separate class. I mean, there's a whole list of stuff. I mean, that I feel is critical. And like I said, where are they going? How long, how many have to be there? What happens if it doesn't sell? Are you behind any mortgage? Yes, that's a whole.
Closing date.
Closing date, right? What date works for you? What's gonna stay?
So what I'm hearing is you're gonna help teach.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing it down. Jen, I'm writing it down too. I was like, and Rob's doing the same class, and
there's some list out there actually that have all those questions you should be asking your sellers.
Yeah,
Isn't that, that's an Ignite, wasn't the first Ignite classes?
I've never done Ignite. I
Right, Rob,
have
can you
no
come in?
idea. I have no idea what it is. I'm sure it's awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a dozen Ignite classes.
Rob, I think it is in the Ignites.
Right.
It is.
When we were doing it.
It's
Yeah.
one of the yeah, and then there's a boot camps on
Boot
top.
camp. I know that there's boot camps.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it used to be one of the Ignite.
Gloria, I think does the boot camps. Next, if we're power through some, if the seller is keeping timber rights, can the buyer cut down the trees?
Call your attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for us.
Yeah.
That's a call your attorney,
Call your
whoever, yep, call your attorney. Okay.
That's just like a lease. It's like, can I get out of my lease? I know what's your lease, but the first thing the attorneys are gonna ask.
Yeah, I've sold them with gas leases
And
too.
some of the old gas leases, they
Yeah.
don't say subsurface or surface, they just say lease. So what does that mean? Yeah,
Mhm.
so then that's call your attorney, absolutely.
Can you read that question one more time?
If the seller is keeping timber rights, can the buyer cut down trees?
But don't they typically transfer?
No.
But it's saying if they're retaining the rights or
Okay,
they're leased
retaining the
out,
rights.
yes,
Oh, okay.
yep, yep.
In the rural areas, sometimes they do.
They retain the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I noticed like this listing that I just scheduled an appointment for, no one even understands what those questions mean, those two questions.
Right.
You know, is there any royalties being paid and will they transfer? And everyone's like, no, or unknown, like,
they're usually not, yeah,
People just aren't familiar with that.
especially in the country, you're more often seeing these types of.
Sure.
Well, if you're just thinking of that, though, have you looked at anybody in Naples where there was still had the fracking issues, because they did allow fracking at one point about 10, 15
All the way
years ago.
from there down through South
Well,
here, it's still an issue with a
So,
lot of properties.
There are some that they got the fracking rights, they just can't do it currently without,
Yeah.
you see, okay, I didn't believe in that Naples cooperative.
It's there, I haven't lately, I'm just dealing with like, gas rates.
That's right, yeah.
Interest.
And now the big one too is the wind rights,
Yeah.
The windmills, the wind farms.
Turbine.
Turbines.
that's what they're- Yeah.
Air rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it common in the country for the seller to obtain those and, those royalties?
I wouldn't say it's common, again, Southern Tier, I think it was 15 years ago when they stopped allowing fracking in New York State, but there were
People making lots of money.
people making a lot of money on fracking before they outlawed it.
Okay.
And so I had a client a few years ago, bought a place down south of Dansville and said he had, when he purchased it, he did not obtain, I don't remember which one it was mineral gas rights. But so he bought, so basically, he could have gone on there camping and seen a gas well pop up on his property. So the seller maintained the gas rights.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, and it could be anyone, it could be one of the timber rights, same thing, you go down there, go camping in the woods and suddenly the trees are all gone, because the seller maintained the timber rights, so.
Okay, interesting.
It's, I don't say it's common, but it's out there.
See, it's on the bigger acreage properties. A lot of people came from, like, Pennsylvania was starting to get saturated with the fracking and oil. So they started buying up hundreds of acres in southern tier of New York and on up like Winston, in Wyoming County. So they buy up the property, keep the rights and turn around and sell the property.
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah.
But I would encourage you, if anyone doesn't know what something means in our contracts, ask someone in the office.
And when in
Or call
doubt,
your attorney.
Yeah.
when in doubt, if you're doing something in the southern tier, ask the attorney directly to look into that a little bit more, especially if it's unknown. I mean, obviously they would, but there's a lot going on. Ask them to explore that, see what they can find.
Yeah, it seems common in your neck of the woods I live in Rochester, Webster area. A lot of agents don't even understand what that terminology means,
Right.
unfortunately. But I thought it would just be common practice, because that's how I fill out the contract, with my listings, is that, if you obtaining any of these royalties, they would transfer with the property, okay, you know what I mean?
Well, and I
So,
the royalties too would come into leasing if they own the rights.
Hmm.
So you automatically own the rights to your property unless you gave them to somebody else or somebody kept them. So they're really not royalties.
well, they're paid money for those.
No.
You would if like on a gas lease, you would.
Yes.
Cause that's a product, not royalties on timber because you own you're retaining the timber value, so no one else is paying you for it.
No, but if the trees are cut down, that's a
But-
royalty that's paid to you, right?
But well, you're doing whatever you want with the wood. I mean, you could be selling it, or you could be using it for yourself. You could keep the land next door and that's how you're feeding your home.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I assume that it always transfers, any royalties that would be paid.
You gotta stop using that word royalty. So if this is your house and
Yeah.
everything under here is yours,
Yeah,
unless the previous owner said, I wanna keep underground mineral rights.
okay,
They're rights, they haven't made any money on them, you haven't made any money, they just own what's under them. Kind of like in New York, air rights, which are air rights now. In New York, there was the first person to do air rights was someone that's running for president. They did the air rights across one of the avenues. Because it was all open space, so they bid on the air rights,
correct.
but ownership doesn't mean royalties. You own the tree in your backyard.
Okay, so I didn't understand it that way.
So you own the tree,
Yeah,
but the person before you said, well, I'm keeping the timber rights. No, that tree is really their timber rights.
gotcha,
Okay,
okay, that's
They,
interesting.
and they kept the mineral rights and drilled a gas well, and then now, so that you're living there at the house, the previous owner has the gas rights, gas well goes up. And now they start getting, that would be where they get royalties, correct, on the
yeah,
gas.
the person that owns the rights sells it to a gas company or.
Right,
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
then
if
they
you
get,
own the rights, you own the royalties eventually, if there was something to.
Yes.
Okay.
So royalties is applicable to certain terminology within that.
I.
Now you're good, yeah. I'm just was clarifying
Yes,
for
thank
the room. Okay, can we power through a couple more?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe, yeah, okay, yes. If you ask for reviews, what platforms do you use? And assuming reviews for reviewing you as an agent.
I use Realtor and Zillow.
Yeah,
So you ask for them in those two.
And because
platforms.
you can send a direct link to your client. You know.
Same, I use Realtor, Zillow, or Facebook. Those are the only, that's the only thing I use Zillow for, is for reviews.
Anyone else?
I just use Google, yeah.
Google,
And I actually
Zillow.
hate asking people because I hate getting asked a million in emails, can you give a review? You were just here yesterday, can you give us a review? What?
What's the-
Facebook,
yeah.
I'm sorry, to have someone tag you in their photo up there, that's how it is, you know, don't forget you, so when you do your final walkthrough. And make sure you bring your cute sign that says sold, like my last couple, I said, okay, pick her up, you know, picked her up, it's adorable. And then I said, now are you guys on Facebook? And yeah, I'm like, well, don't forget to tag me, I just say it like
Yeah.
that, and that's,
Nice.
and they always tag me in it, so. But I'm giving them that photo too, so always give them that photo, take it with your phone, and then fire it all off to them. And make a lot of, take in the house, and take pictures outside, and, you know, take a bunch so she can pick.
And you can give everyone options for that, but also I know we've built up our Zillow reviews, so now we're working on building up Google reviews and. I mean, the people have to sign up for Zillow if they're not on
I never
there.
done Google reviews, that's, I'll have to look into that.
Simpler than Zillow.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, yeah.
I literally send you a link and you click the stars and write something, it's that easy,
Okay,
Oh, nice.
super easy.
I never done that one, have you?
I had to know personally, so I'm sure it's some Jersey for me.
There you go, I don't like. You have to have the John's gonna do a Google review.
You have to have a Google what?
Google review, wait, someone taught that, Jordan, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was neat repeat, I hear repeat class,
And you should have a Google your business.
yes.
Should have had one.
Is it beneficial to do geographical farming?
We know. Go wrong, the only people I advertise to is my circle, that is if you not go outside. That person in Farmington does not know me, does not care about getting a letter from home, saying, hey, can I sell your house, you wanna go out for coffee? But if I call Rob, hey, you wanna go out for coffee, he's probably gonna go out for coffee with me, whether it's about selling a house or not, they work my circle, that is people I don't know. Probably won't be.
Okay. Any other?
I would say that it's funny because 27 years ago, that was one of the things they often talked about was creating a geographic farm. And saying, okay, you know, you're gonna send out so many letters. I mean, they say statistically, it's probably similar to internet leads. You have to pick an area and you have to, again, be consistent. So whether you're mailing every month. Mike Casasi years ago this is back when 20 some years ago when direct mailing was bigger. He would mail 10,000 pieces every month to certain areas. So it can be expensive and it's always better, like if you decided, well, I'm gonna pick up, I'm gonna become a Farm Pro. If you started, what would be more successful is you mail to it once or twice, but then start knocking on doors to recognize your face. Or, you know, doing an ice cream social for the kids in the summer. There are a lot of other events you can do related to geographic farming that will make it better. But you're right, if it's a long process, if all you're gonna do is just simply send flyers or postcards.
Depends on who you live too, like
Depends on-
where I live, there's like probably 20 realtors and then less than a half a mile.
Right.
My neighborhood is like, oh, hi, I got your letter, Mary.
Oh, you're the other Mary.
And to clarify what Rob was saying, long process meaning like it's a long-term, like
Correct.
for results, they're not
Yes.
gonna happen today, like
It's
you're,
years, it
Right.
is years, yes.
just so people get what he's saying there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey, Jen, can I
Yes.
say something really quick?
Yes.
I know we're short on time. I just want to say, I mean, I know we're still going, but this is so helpful. And I have to say, I have been so struck by Oak Tie's laser-like focus in that I mean, the answer to almost everything is like, I work my sphere, I work my people, I talk to my people, and that you know, we talk all the time about like, what's your one thing? What's the one thing that you're focused on? What's the one thing that's driving your business? And that is such a clear message. And I swear, I could have been your answer for everything, like, how do you? Do this? I talk to my people. How do you compete on something? I don't compete, I talk to my people. Like, everything, it's so clear, and you're doing a huge business. And it's just, such a great example of knowing your one thing and really sticking to it. And that has just really stood out so crystal clear to me today. So thank you for that.
No worries.
Yeah.
I have I do the CMAC thing, I get a season tickets, I give them away to all my clients. They're like, no way, I'm like, yeah, here you go.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's simple, it's easy, all that money that is spent on farming and everything else, and people that care about it, realistically. Get to somebody that cares about it, spend that money wisely, it'll come back to you tenfold.
Cause even if they like you, now they're a raving fan. So they have to be a freaking concert, you get some Garth Brooks, you know.
Yeah,
That's a good book too, by the way, Raven fan.
yes.
We did it as a
Great
book.
So, thank you.
There's 3 more. Okay. What really is the difference between a buyer's agent and a buyer broker in agency? Rob.
I guess my first thought is the question's a little interesting, a buyer agent and a buyer broker. Are they talking simply about the difference between
Agency probably, it says an agency.
an agency?
You know our agency form?
Right, but that, well, I'm just wondering, you know, between becoming an agent, taking your class and becoming a broker. Is that what they're referring to? No.
I don't know everyone Morgan gave me most of the questions that people submitted to her. I had some from here.
I'm going with that.
The typed ones are from Morgan, so I don't.
You know how there's like, I didn't write the question, so I don't know what my assumption would be, how there's like 3 choices, there's like buyer's agent, buyer broker agency. And then.
Dual.
Dual.
It'll be-
Dual and dual
are they talking
designated.
about the
They're
person-
not talking about a broker's agent, no, they're talking about the difference between a buyer's agent and a buyer's broker. So to me, the difference, I mean, if you go back to the agent and broker is education, you know, one, you're brand new, or newer. Actually, that's not true. One, you have taken simply another level of class, to become potentially a broker. So I don't know, it's a little unclear to me.
Right up
I
the form,
assume that's
I'm
what
pulling
it is.
it up right now.
Maybe that's a question we come back to.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to us. We have 2 more. What is your favorite smart plan and why? And smart plan, they're referring to Command, because there are other CRMs that are termed different things like action plans. Does anyone up here use smart
Favorites?
plans?
Yeah, but I don't know if there's a favorite, I think there's just the follow-up, just create, you know, if sometimes if you think, well, none of these fit me, we'll create them. Create an email that sounds good, and we're actually creating and putting images in the email responses too. Because people are image oriented.
Follow-up sphere. Are we getting a theme here from every person? That's, yeah, we'll get these 2 themes. What are the top 3 things a new agent should focus on? And how should they do them? What are the top 3 things a new agent should focus on and how should they do them?
Oh, this one. So number 1, and I normally find, and looking back, most agents I feel struggle with 2 things. Number 1, what to say, and number 2, who to say it to. So the first thing is take my CMA class, you'll learn how to price. If you know how to price, now whether you're a buyer side or seller side, you'll have something to talk about. So, and by the way, it's a great idea, and I do a lot of what I call guerrilla marketing, which means, you know, if you're going to a cocktail party or a barbecue, do a little quick CMA on that neighborhood, find out what is the average sale price, what is the cost per square foot? So that way, when you're sitting there chatting, oh, yeah, the neighbor's place up the street, Tom Cruise sold his house for 6.2 million. You can start talking about the experts, that's number 1. Knowing what to talk about. Number 2 is who to say it to. And new agents tell everybody, even my millennials, you pick up your phone and go, how many people you got in here? 100, 200, most people are gonna say between 300 and 500, right? That is your database. Your database, as Oaktai said, is simply names, numbers, email addresses. If you, and it could be, and so that's where you prospect it. So that's who you say it to. Those are the 2 big ones. is what to say and who to say it to. I would say after that, it is getting that action plan of consistently staying in touch with your sphere. So the 36 touch program, those are probably the three key places. And I would say, yeah, I think those are probably the three big ones. I mean, I think objection handlers are big along with, so once you learn pricing, you learn, okay, here's my database I'm gonna follow up with. Maybe a close tie for the third place would be objection handling, learning. Cause you know, after how many years of business, there's probably 6 or 8 objections that most people have. It's priced too low, my neighbor's household for this, you know, I've got a brand new roof, you know, you've probably got a list of 6 or 8 things that come up all the time. Role play with someone and learn those inside and out, so that it just rolls up.
Play,
Yeah.
absolutely, because, you know, so if you don't use it, you lose it, it's still role play, because you don't know what's gonna come up.
100%.
And I would say find a realtor that you feel comfortable with to mentor you and to make you accountable. So, you know, if you're working with another agent, you're giving them like some tasks. And then at the end of the week, you say, okay, so how far did you get on this? How far did you get on that? Did you have any problems with some issues? And then there's that constant feedback, and I'll tell you that when you do that, you also learn yourself. I learned lots of things from working with other people.
So I would ask, any last parting words for the people on Zoom and in the class today that you could depart on them or share from your years and decades of experience, because everyone has well over 10 years.
Be positive and stay in touch with your peoples.
Yeah, keep grinding, it gets easier. I worked 3 jobs for the first 6 years of my real estate career. Worked at Kmart stocking shelves from 11 to 7. Helped the guy paint and did real estate on the side. Real estate was my #1 job. I wasn't making a lot of money. It doesn't normally come fast to anyone. Just keep grinding. It will happen.
Teresa, do you have any last words for the class?
Just don't give up. You're gonna have some really challenging clients and really challenging contracts. And sometimes they die and sometimes they die more than once, but you are working for the seller, so you can't let that defeat you. You have to stay strong and just be consistent. You know, don't ever show that you're nervous about something. Don't, you want to vent, pick one person in your life to talk to. Mine's my husband. Other than that, pick myself up and you have to, whatever happened prior can't happen in the future, so you have to have that good attitude. They have to trust you, and they're gonna trust you with that kind of attitude.
Don't take your losses personal. They can't be, if you take your losses personal, you're not gonna survive. You just have to take those losses as a learning instrument. And sometimes you may want to talk to somebody, because maybe that person that you lost to, or whatever it was you lost, probably were better off losing it. So don't ever take it personally.
And along with that, don't forget, sometimes one door closes, no one opens. So, you know, maybe that client that was driving you absolutely batty crazy and you fired yourself. The sense of relief sometimes when you fire yourself is outstanding. And then you realize, you know what, all that time and energy and aggravation you were spending on that one person now frees you up to spend it with clients that you actually like to work with.
Don't compromise.
Yes.
I have a listing that I didn't get because he wanted me to drop my commission down to 4%. I said, no, I can't do it. Oh, well, life goes on. He listed it, probably sold it. I don't pay attention. I didn't look at it, so I don't care if it's sold or not. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't take it too personally. It sucks. I'm not doing anything. I'm about $1,000 interested in this now. Pretty much everybody is. With all the marketing that everybody does. So it's not like you're getting a list that you're not doing anything, but you're actually working for it. So don't compromise. So it's everybody equal.
I love that. Thank you so much for 80 minutes of your time with us. We know you have a busy life, so we want to thank you, and thanks for Tracy for bringing lunch. Thank you. If you have any questions from Premium Mortgage. And well,
I learned a lot.
Did you?